The paro is over! We are so happy. After 18 days, the government and the indigenous protesters have finally come to an agreement, and the paro is over. It will probably take a little while for the roads to be reopened, since a lot of times they dump rocks and mounds of dirt and gravel in the streets, so it might take a little bit of time to clear all that, but we're expecting all the highways and roads to be open within the next 12 to 24 hours.
Yes, let's hope. And oh my gosh, I hope the healing begins very quickly, because boy, it has been an emotional roller coaster and things have been pretty tense throughout the country. Since our last posting, there were more violent outbursts or outbreaks or acts or whatever you want to call it.
Or violence.
Thank you.
Amelia struggles with her mouth words sometimes.
Especially in Cuenca, things got really kind of bad in Cuenca. And yesterday, the president had reinstated some of the state of emergency in some of the provinces, including SY. So, boy, were we relieved when we woke up this morning and learned that they were sitting down at the table and that they have already come to an agreement. We are so thankful.
Following our video that we posted on Tuesday, they did hold a vote and they voted not to impeach President Lasso. So that is partly, I think, what has paved the way for the end of this paro, is that once that whole process was behind us and democracy prevailed, then everybody seemed more willing to sit down and negotiate and figure out how to come to kind of a middle ground where, you know, everybody gives a bit, gives a little.
Right, and they brought in a third-party negotiator, which was part of the church, and that seemed to have done the trick. So we are very grateful to that organization.
All right, so Amelia, let's tell them what the agreements were.
Okay, well, we don't have all the specific details, but the main point here is that the government has agreed to lower the price of gasoline by 15 cents.
So it's an additional 5 cents on the 10 cents that they did on Monday. So
right.
It's a total of 15 cents.
And they've made some other concessions or compromises as well. So they're going to increase subsidies for fertilizer, for education, for healthcare. They're declaring a state of emergency for the healthcare system.
And that's the public IESS system.
Right.
The private system is fine. That's what we belong to. We have private health insurance, but a lot of the low-income people in Ecuador, they are part of the universal health care plan, which is called IESS. It has really been struggling financially.
Yeah.
They've had medication shortages, doctor shortages, and it's just been struggling.
Yeah, really, ever since the pandemic, things have definitely been a bit tricky. They're also going to strengthen price controls to prevent speculation and price gouging.
Because of the war in Ukraine and the embargoes, Ecuador hasn't been able to import the fertilizer from Russia, and about 38% of the fertilizer used in Ecuador came from Russia before the war started. So that has really decreased the supply and increased the price here, which hurts the farmers the most. And so I think the subsidy for the fertilizer is really going to help them a lot.
The government is repealing Executive Decree 95, which has to do with the oil policy, and they are reforming Executive Decree 151, which has to do with the country's mining plan. And it does specifically mention things like water protection areas and archaeological zones and other important environmental factors.
Several of the demands that the indigenous had will take a while to implement, so they have agreed on a framework for continuing the discussion over the next 90 days to implement the process for these longer term projects.
Yes, and so now let's just let the healing begin, because...
Time to start the minga.
Yes.
Time to start cleaning everything up. Now we'll have pictures of everyone out in the streets, police, military, and protesters all next to each other, picking up the trash and cleaning everything up. That's the way it's happened in the past.
Yes, and this one was, as I said earlier, emotionally a bit tense. 18 days is a long time to have this hanging over everyone's head, hanging over the country's head, and there was a lot of uncertainty. And as I mentioned, there were some violent acts around the country which were really kind of scary and sad. So
yeah, we've heard that coming out of a lot of different areas. And you know, that's the problem when you have protests, is that there's always going to be people who are angry and do things that they shouldn't do and normally wouldn't be able to do without the cover of a crowd of protesters. They can get away with more, and I think we saw a lot of that happening, especially toward the end of this. People were getting really desperate since we had run out of propane. A lot of places were out of food, and fuel was running low, and medical supplies, and we saw people fighting over propane tanks, and it was just getting really out of control. We just feel such a huge sense of relief that this is over. And like Amelia said, it felt a lot different than the 2019 Paro, but this is our second Paro since we've been here in 5 years, and we also survived a 4-month quarantine in the pandemic. So it's been a bit of a tumultuous time, but we still love Ecuador. The people are amazing, and we love the country. It's beautiful. And now in our last video, we told you if you have a trip planned to cancel it or reschedule it. And now I would say you're safe to come. So if you have a trip planned, even arriving tomorrow, I think you're going to be okay. Especially in the next week, you're going to be fine. The Mingas will be clearing out the roads, and everything will be back to normal in a week. You probably won't even know this happened.
Yeah, the state of exceptions have been lifted, so there aren't any curfews anywhere. And I did read that they already had gotten some propane and some food back into Cuenca. So hopefully things will get back to normal, like JP said, really, really quickly.
Yeah, they take their protesting very seriously here. We heard from a lot of people from around the world who said that, they have protests there, but they don't shut down the whole country. And I got to say that I'm not a huge fan of that, but it does happen here, and it does seem to be an effective form of protest, even if we don't agree with it or we don't like the ramifications of not being able to travel freely. That's what they do here. It's part of the culture, and
it is.
You just have to realize that also part of the culture is to forgive and forget and move on. And when it's over, and everybody comes together at the end of it. And that's what we expect to start seeing shortly. This announcement just came out like within the last hour and a half or 2 hours. So it's still very early, and we haven't seen a lot of the improvements yet, but they're coming.
I'm really excited to get back out and explore more of Ecuador now. I can't wait, because we had to postpone one of our trips.
Yeah, next week we will be returning to our normal posting schedule on Thursday, so stay tuned for that. We have another incredible adventure video that shows Ecuador, and it's just one of those wow inspiring videos. Like, I can't believe this exists. I thought this was only in the movies, but this is where they filmed those movies apparently, because we were there and it was incredible. So we can't wait to share that with you.
Yeah, and make sure you subscribe, because we are posting a lot more to our community tab, and it's a great way to stay updated on the latest things that are happening around Ecuador.
And with our channel.
Yes.
And you have to be logged into YouTube and a subscriber of our channel to see our community tab. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. All right, are we done, Amelia? Are we going to go party? I think we should open a bottle of champagne or something. We just feel such a huge sense of relief. We're like, we just can't wait to get out and party and like shake people's hands.
Yes, and participate in a minga.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll see you all in our next video. Have a great weekend and a great Independence Day.
Yes, ciao.
Ciao.